When Deafheaven burst onto the scene back in 2013 with the release of Sunbather, it was not an album I can say that I was very interested in hearing, though I imagine that was for quite opposite reasons to most who did not hear this record in 2013. At that time, I did not really enjoy black metal. I found the vocal style unpleasing to my ears which were steeped in classic rock and metal with operatic, melodious voices. But when I did hear Sunbather for the first time, well, it did nothing for me. But there was something about it which meant that I just couldn't stop trying to listen to it. Until one day, it clicked. I was walking outside in the sunshine and the pulsating, shoegaze-inspired black metal-derived riffage washed over me, and it was beautiful. Everything just seemed right in that moment. There was nothing in the world but me and this music. And that was how I became a fan of Deafheaven. I then followed them into their darker, heavier, and less satisfying New Bermuda in 2015, as well as seeing them live. And while not as important as Agalloch in my formative black metal years, they certainly helped to introduce me to a wonderful subgenre of metal. Among denizens of the internet metal community, the outrage over Deafheaven being even considered black metal or metal at all still seems to linger on and persist. The purists will insist that Deafheaven's songs are too well produced, clean and pristine, as they certainly are. Their drums may have the blast beats natural for the style, but their songs use major seventh chords where their contemporaries would use diminished. And while Deafheaven could hardly be described lyrically or musically as a happy band, they subvert the usual pessimism of the genre with a distinct optimism. That things may be shit now, but it doesn't always have to be like that. It seemed with New Bermuda as if Deafheaven were attempting to compromise their core blend of positivity and gloom to focus more heavily on those darker elements, perhaps whether consciously or subconsciously, to prove themselves as a real black metal band. But with Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, Deafheaven have stopped caring about the controversy, and instead are set on achieving full sonic realization by wearing their disparate and eclectic influences proudly on their sleeve. Structurally, this album is similar to past work, having a few longer songs as the centerpieces of the record, with some shorter songs providing interludes or adding quieter moments, a respite from the wall of noise. The way these moments are done and the sound of them, however, is completely different. And these sections, the centerpieces and the shorter ones, are more in radical opposition than ever before. Now, many of Deafheaven's core elements have been retained on this album. Their signature wall of sound, their harsh vocals, blast beats, tight riffage, tremolo picked guitar. But they've reduced other elements. They've reduced the shoegaze. They've added in new ones, such as more post-rock. And this gives the album a very distinct sound from the previous couple of records and its own identity in Deafheaven's discography. Canary Yellow is perhaps the most classically Deafheaven sounding track on the record, and is for me the pinnacle, and I would say at this point one of my favourite Deafheaven songs overall. It starts in a familiar way, from quiet to loud, erupting into a raw bass and drum sound, overlaid with a more positive sounding lead guitar line, which counterbalances beautifully the sheer brutality of the rest of the elements. The vocals are as guttural as ever, while the crescendos are as hard-hitting and emotional as Sunbather's. The key difference is to be found at the end of this song, in its clean vocals, as you hear the group sung on and on we choke them, as vocalist George screams "my lover's blood," and it's a tremendous finale. While Canary Yellow only hints at some of the changes to their sound we'd find in Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, let's explore some of the others. The track preceding Canary is Honeycomb, a song which begins standardly enough, though it's structured in opposition to Canary, going from loud to quiet. And what makes this song such a wonderful 10-minute journey is the variety of guitar tones and influences they throw in, transitioning seamlessly from black gaze to a driving, almost Thin Lizzy-esque lead line, reminding me closely of some of Solstafier's guitar melodies from their latest album, Bedroomin'. And such classic rock influences are even more apparent though on the track Glint towards the end of the album. Glint actually features full-on guitar solos from Kerry, which is something that isn't all of that common in post-black metal black gaze, since bands often prefer to contribute to the atmosphere with their lead guitar lines rather than just go full-on and solo. Though Honeycomb itself ends up transitioning into a slower, almost Smashing Pumpkins-like segment around 3/4 of the way through, which continues for the rest of the song before upping the ante in a distinctly post-rock manner towards the finale. The instrumental section at the end is simply sublime. It's so beautifully and deftly woven together. The post-rock is most easily detectable though in the opening song, You Without End. You Without End is a song with these huge, wide, sweeping vistas of reverb and delayed guitars swirling around the sound, with a spoken word accompaniment which certainly gives me some vibes of Godspeed You Black Emperor. But it's the latter half I feel I need to talk about the most, the half that really cements this album as something totally unique in Deafheaven's discography. Nia has solely clean vocals, and it's the first song in the band's history, I believe, to do this. It's pure summer bliss. It reminds me greatly of some of the sounds heard on Alcest's shoegaze-infused and controversial Shelter, with Nia possessing the positivity and bliss of an Alcest song such as O Pale or Deliverance, though the most jarring song for most will certainly have to be Night People. Night People opens with some of the piano introduced early in the album on the opener You Without End, and goes into a double-tracked vocal with George and, I guess, indie goth vocalist Chelsea Wolfe. And if for some reason you're expecting a full-on black metal album from Deafheaven, the synths in this song will soon dispel any notions that this is what you'll have in store for you. Chelsea Wolfe does a magnificent job with her ethereal vocals, adding tremendous depth to the lyrics sung by George, and creating a simply beautiful atmosphere for both vocalists to shine. My only critique, I guess, overall with Sunbather was how unrelenting it could often be at times with some of its wall of noise. So I feel that these quieter songs, such as Nia and Night People, really allow the listener to just pause for reflection and break up some of the monotony of the wall of sound. Despite its brilliance and splendid infusion of disparate musical ideas and influences, I do believe the album makes a couple of missteps. I know that some people aren't really a fan of George's vocals. I usually am, and certainly at points in this album they are essential to the emotional payoffs of tracks like Canary Yellow. But there are other moments I really felt would have been stronger and more convincing if they were just simply left as instrumentals. A perfect example for this is parts of You Without Me. As the song begins to build and the other instruments come in, we have these beautiful clean vocals over the piano as the post-rock vistas further deepen the sound. But then as the Brian May-esque guitar line, I guess, comes in, then the growling kicks in. And I do find that the vocals just bog down what's otherwise a sublime instrumental passage. Even though the vocals are buried very low in the mix, they just seem to be so dissonant and discordant, but not in the way that Deafheaven usually is, because Deafheaven certainly uses dissonance and discordant ideas, especially in the way it balances that heaviness with that, as I said, optimism and those lighter shoegaze-drenched sounds. Here, it just feels out of place, and its inclusion does bother me a little. As soon as the vocals go away, the song just sounds so much better, until you get to the finale, which I do admit they fit very well as they begin to blend more of the multiple guitars for the crescendo. And I do feel similarly with some of the quieter passages of Worthless Animal too. While not a direct critique of the album, I would like to hear in for future Deafheaven albums, the more seamless incorporation of the cleaner vocal passages within the longer compositions, rather than simply leaving them as just these self-contained tracks. What I'm saying is I'd like them to explore more of the structures of songs like Canary Yellow, and that song's incorporation of clean vocals. But Ordinary Corrupt Love, it's beautiful, it's bold, it's evocative, it's a 9 out of 10. This has been TheAIbumMan. Thank you so much for watching. Can't forget to subscribe, and as usual, long live rock and roll.